a gospel this morning that I just read. There's a small section in today's gospel reading that is very appropriate for this Memorial Weekend. So what we're going to look at, and the gospel comes out of the 28th chapter of Matthew, it's going to be verses 18 and 19, which speaks of this Memorial Weekend. Let's take a look at those two verses. Now, just before we go over those two verses, I just have to give a little preliminary information to those verses. Jesus Christ is talking to his disciples. He's telling them their job description, what they're going to need to do when they get out into the mission territory, out into the mission fields. And this becomes their job description. Let's take a look. Jesus says to the disciples, "Go therefore and make disciples of all the nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and the Holy Spirit." At that point, that's a reference to the Trinity. It's a reference to the process, the words of baptism, which we'll be using on Anthony Edward in just a few moments. Now, this is a very important line, the last two lines, which is the verse 19 of the 28th chapter of Matthew. Extremely important. Jesus said to his disciples, teaching them to observe all that I've commanded you. Teaching them. How important that is. Jesus Christ realized you have to teach, you have to tell the story of salvation history to the current and future generations. Jesus realized if you don't tell the current and future generations about the commandments, if you don't explain the cross to the current generation, how can they tell the future generations? If you don't teach and pass on the story of who I am and what I did for my people, then all is for naught. How important it is to teach, to pass on the story. You know, the United States, the very first war fought in the United States was the American Revolutionary War. That war, for the most part, started in 1775. There were rumblings and foundations of that war starting prior to 1775. But the war erupts, American Revolutionary War, 1775. It lasts all the way to 1783 with the Paris Peace Treaty. From that war to the present war that we're currently fighting, there have been over 100 wars fought in the United States. Some of those wars very well known, and some of the battles very well known, but the vast majority of the wars fought in the United States are obscure in name and obscure in battle. But every one of those wars has generated the same problem, the same casualty. And every war fought by the United States in order to defend itself, it is believed that little over 1,350,000 men and women have died defending our country, starting with the first war, the American Revolutionary War. That's an incredible number. Now, historians, especially American historians, that study war and have studied all the wars that have been fought by the United States, the question keeps coming up. Why has war been a part of our history? Well, it turns out to be we're no different than any other nation. War has been a part of every nation. War has been a part of this world. War has been a part of human civilization from the very beginning. So the question is why? Why does war repeat itself? Why does history repeat itself? And the vast majority of American historians always draw the same conclusion. History repeats itself because history typically isn't repeated. That sounds convoluted, but that makes sense. History repeats itself, especially in war, because history often isn't repeated. It isn't repeated orally and verbally. And sometimes it isn't taught graphically and in depth to the current and future generations. If we could teach, look, this is what happens when you start conflict. And when you can't resolve conflict, it only metastasizes, it grows, it becomes angrier and uglier, and it leads to this. And if we pass that on to current and then in the future generations, if they understood what happens when you can't control your unraveling emotions, then it leads to war. History repeats itself because history often isn't repeated. And if you don't know the past, you're going to repeat it into the future. That's why we get in the same cycle over and over and over again. Now we're going to watch a little video. And in this video, this grandfather who fought war for us, it dawns on him the importance of passing on the story teaching the story to his grandsons. So hopefully their generation won't repeat what his generation did. Let's take a watch of this video.
3 teens were arrested today for defacing the Kensington Park War Memorial overnight. The destruction includes painted messages against the military and the war in the Middle East. The 3 teens were picked up in the early morning hours after evidence was left at the scene.
Grandpa, something wrong?
Some people sure have short memories, and those who are too young to know need to be taught. Come on, I want to show you guys something.
The United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked by naval and air forces of the Empire of Japan.
At dawn on the morning of the 6th of June, 1944, 225 Rangers jumped off the British landing craft and ran to the bottom of these cliffs. 225 came here. After 2 days of fighting, only 90 could still bear arms. These are the boys of Puente Viejo, champions who helped free a continent. And these are the heroes who helped end a war. You are men who in your, quote, lives fought for life and left the vivid air signed with your honor.
In the name of God and country, I learned to defy gravity.
To honor my family,
I lived in the belly of a beast.
I fixed the hearts of iron monsters.
I became a worm in the mud for dignity,
For honor, for righteousness' sake, for God and country.
I fought for you.
I fought for you.
For you.
I fought for you.
I fought for you. I fought for you.
I fought for you.
For you.
For you.
For you.
for you. I fought for you.
I fought for you.
I fought for you, and I'd do it again.
Their grandfather figured it out on his own, but actually comes out of the 19th verse, the 20th chapter of Matthew, teach. It's amazing to watch the change in the heart of the first grandson when he put away his attachment, then decided to watch, and then to learn, and teaching occurred. So it's been a lot of wars fought in the United States. Some known and most not known, but all have caused the same problem, the loss of life. Many historians make the same conclusion, and I think it's a very interesting conclusion. You know, war repeats itself, history repeats itself, and their conclusion is this: history repeats itself because often history isn't repeated. Orally, verbally, it isn't taught. And when you teach, as we watch that grandfather teach his two grandsons, what a change that makes. The first part of the gospel, Jesus tells, baptize in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. I ask Anthony Edward and his family, please come forward for his